Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
We're leaders in creating a community which is very different than a neighborhood, right? Like a neighborhood, you may or may not know any of your neighbors at all. Whereas a community, there's interdependence, right? So there's heavy interaction and interdependence in a community, and kind of a concept where everybody's functioning together and everybody affects everybody else.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I am super excited for you to be able to listen to today's conversation. So let me just say right up front, thanks so much for continuing to share your screenshots. You're tagging us across social media. We're on LinkedIn and you're sharing now on Instagram. It's really, really cool. We appreciate that so much. And also for those of you who are leaving your honest written reviews as well as ratings, we really appreciate that, especially on the Apple podcast platform as well as the Spotify platform. It's fantastic. And also, if you're looking to get some of the previous episodes, just go to firstgencp.com/podcasts and you can find every single episode ever. firstgencp.com/podcast to check out every single episode, video, audio, show notes, transcripts, everything. You can find it all there. So if you want to understand about how you can start in your own backyard and expand beyond your backyard in terms of being able to build a multifamily portfolio, today is a conversation you really are going to want to listen to. Taking local experience and expanding that to different locations. Today, we're going to talk to Tate Siemer. And when we have a conversation, you are really going to enjoy it. And we're going to get to that just after this. Are you a busy, high-paid professional? Someone that in the previous 2 years has earned $200,000 and is expected to earn $200,000 this year? Or maybe if you filed jointly, previously you've earned $300,000 the previous 2 years and you're also expected to do that this year. Or maybe if not, either individually or jointly, you have $1 million in net worth, not including your primary residence. If you meet any of these criteria, then you're someone that the IRS considers to be an accredited investor. That probably means you're someone like an enterprise software sales executive. You may be an executive in a major corporation. You may be a doctor. You may be a lawyer, maybe a high-paid consultant. You may even work for a major sports franchise. The thing I know you have in common is that you continue to do the hard work. Like you're doing 100% of the work and you're only bringing home 50% of the reward because you continue to get crushed by your income taxes. If you are tired of this situation and you're looking for a new solution, then go to firstgencp.com/going long. When you get there, that's going to help you to start the journey so that you can begin to take back control of your taxes, take control of your time. And then also that means you're going to be able to spend more of the time that you want with the people that you love the most. And that is the way that you're going to get the personal freedom that you're looking for. So if you're looking to take back control, go ahead and go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. So if you want to know how improving communities as well as expanding well-being can lead to your long-distance investing success, then guess what? Today's the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Because today's guest, listen to this, not only studied in undergrad in the southeast of Ohio. There's a big reason I'm telling you that. He also co-owned his very first real estate company in late 2012. Today, he's focused on growing his multifamily communities in states like Ohio, Utah, Oklahoma. There may be even more than that, and I'd love for him to tell us about that. He's also the host of a super popular podcast, the Apartment Gurus podcast, and he's also the managing owner of Greenlight Equity Group. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Tate Siemer. Tate, welcome to the show, man.
Billy, that was an awesome intro. I appreciate it, man. It's an honor to be on your show. As we were talking off camera, I've known of you for a long time, and it's just an honor to get to contribute to your guests and your listener base. Yeah, I'm excited.
Man. Tate, you've got so much experience, man, and done so many things, especially in this long distance capacity. I absolutely love it. I know you're going to add so much value to the community, and we're glad you decided to be here with us. So, listen, Tate, You know that, well, I think maybe we talked about this, but I like to ask everybody at least 5 questions. You kind of get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get, 3 in the end. And then in the middle, you're going to get a lot of questions. I just don't know what those are yet because it's going to be based on what you're answering. So I'd love for us to get into today's first question and help the audience get to know more about you. So help us understand, where is it that you actually call home in the U.S.?
Yeah. Home now for me is Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been here since 1999, last century, which is dating me a little bit. I moved here. I'll tell you exactly how old I am. I moved here when I was 26. So you guys got to do the math on that one.
All right.
But suffice to say, a big birthday is coming up next year. So,
Yes.
But yeah, I live in Salt Lake. I'm originally, as you mentioned, I went to college in Ohio at Ohio University, rival of Miami University.
Yep.
And but I grew up in Cincinnati. So that's my original hometown.
All right, fantastic. So calling the state of Utah home today. And then also help us, Tate, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Dude, last night I dragged myself to the gym, and I'll tell you why that's so positive. I just enrolled in a fitness nutrition coaching program. An online guy who happens to be local here in Utah, but does his whole program online. And last night was the first time that I went to the gym in this program, and I had been once with him. He was nice enough to meet me once and kind of walk me through some stuff. But last night was my first night on my own. And dude, I don't know what it is about breaking the seal sometimes, but it was like everything I could do to get myself to go to that freaking gym last night. And I made it, man. And it was almost a 2-hour workout. I did all the things that were in the workout, the prescribed workout. So, and I enjoyed it. Like, it's the funny thing. It's like, I got so much resistance to putting on my clothes and getting in the car and going. But, once I'm there, I rock and roll. So it's kind of funny,
man. That's really, really awesome that you, number one, decided that you wanted to do that. And that you did do it. Right. And not only did you do that, you went beast mode and did like 2 hours, man. Like wow, that's just that's over the top. So make sure you stretched. Man. I hope you stretched a lot after that, man.
I did. I stretched a bunch, did some yoga, but yeah, no, it was a long workout, and I was basically just doing step by step everything that he had me doing out of an app actually on my phone. And so yeah, I'm not sore this morning, which is great. I'm a little surprised.
Wait until tomorrow. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Just stretch. Gotcha. Keep stretching. No, so very cool. So I appreciate you sharing that with us, Tate. And it makes me think about, and a lot of the Going Long family, they already know this about me, right? I am someone who is a recovering perfectionist. I set the standard really, really high. And as a result, sometimes I do things that are a little bit over the top. Right. And I'll just admit that to you. And I try to do things like tell your entire backstory in a second and a half.
Okay.
Like it was never going to happen. Right. I talked about these things in your life, but you've done too many things. Like, you've impacted too many lives. And so hopefully you'll forgive me for trying to do something so absurd, like tell your entire backstory in a second and a half. But more importantly, hopefully you will help me and you will tell your own backstory in your own words. You are allowed to take a lot more than a second and a half, right? Because it's your story. So take as much time as you need. And if you could also help us along the way, Tate, by sharing with us some of the major decisions that you made along the way. And then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
You betcha. Love to. Yeah. Great.
Over to you, man.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, I mentioned that I'm originally from Cincinnati, moved to Utah in 99 to ski. And it always been a childhood dream, teenager dream of mine to ski in the Rocky Mountains. And so I picked the place that has consistently the best snow and some really great big mountain terrain here in Utah. I ski at the Snowbird Ski Resort mostly, and have fallen in love with this place. I spent a lot of time in the desert in southern Utah and a lot of time mountain biking and camping too. So, but I'm originally a photographer by trade.
Okay.
And when I moved here, I started in professional ski photography for about 10 years on and off. I did that. And also did hundreds and hundreds of weddings and hundreds of family portraits and more formal portrait type work. And really started that in like right around 2000. And that was really where I got a taste for me as an entrepreneur, because the wedding and portrait work was work that I did under my own brand called Cloud9 Photography. And I had that company for really full time for 10 years. However, in 2006, I was at a friend's house and we were down in his basement, and I was talking to his roommate who had just bought a triplex. And I said, "You bought a triplex? Like, people can buy triplexes? Like that's amazing." And I said, how'd you learn how to do that? And he said, "Well, I'm in this class, this course that I'm taking. It's a weekly meeting, and we basically learn how to invest in property." And so I joined this course. It was a real entry level flipping and wholesaling type course for single family products. And I started, this was 2006. And so I started flipping houses myself. And my first house was like 110 years old. It was a duplex, and one side was occupied, and I renovated the other side and then sold it, flipped it. And I think I made $10,000 on that, Billy. And that was like, I was in heaven. Like, right. That was the coolest thing in the world, that I could increase my income by 10 grand by flipping a house. And so I did a number of flips on my own. I got my realtor license and started helping other investors find places and do them. Mm-hmm. And then the crash happened, and all of the funding that we were using to do this went away. And so I was looking at either like reinventing how I was doing real estate in lieu of the crash. Luckily, I didn't own anything that I got real upside down on or anything like that.
Okay.
But at the time, I basically just decided that I would go back to photography for a while, because I really never hit a stride with single family flipping. And that's going to become a theme here as the kind of the story goes. But my original boss in the photography world is my current business partner. Fast forward to right now, Carl York is his name, and best friend and business partner. And we've been at it for 23 years in different capacities in business. And in 2012, so we're fast forwarding now for about 3-4 years from the 08, 09, 07 crash. And so in 2012 or 2011, I guess, Carl came to me and said, "Hey, dude, I've got some money. You've got some money. And I've got great GC skills. Like, why don't we flip some houses again?" And he was already in real estate. He owned some rentals, and he's as handy as anyone I've ever met. Can do just about anything, build anything. So my first reaction was like, dude, because I was pretty burnt out, to be honest with you, after the first stretch. Yeah. And my first reaction when he suggested that was like, there's no way I'm getting back into real estate, like, ever. And then I thought about it, and I thought about just how much I enjoy working with him. And that was as much a reason as anything that we started looking for flippable houses and buying them and flipping them. And we did that real hard and heavy for the next 6-7 years. We flipped $1 million houses by Salt Lake Country Club. Everything we did was in Utah, in our backyard. We know this market very, very well from me being a realtor. And I just gave up my realtor license earlier in the year. I hadn't used it in a couple of years, but I officially gave it up. And anybody that thinks they need a real estate license to do commercial real estate, you don't. In fact,
by the way, we'll probably come back to that, everybody. So I've got a question around that.
So basically, about 6-7 years into that venture, so this was like 2017, going into 18, we branched out. We were real tired of single family. And one of the reasons was we weren't doing it very well. For some reason, we thought the best way to go about it was to use as much of our own money and lines of credit that we could round up and use our own time and resources to general contract each job ourselves. And that really put us in the weeds, like all the time. Every day you're getting up, going to a job site and solving problems. And I wasn't doing the part of the business that I thrive at, which is doing the deals and running the business and networking and leading from the front. So we decided to get into some development projects. We did some land entitlement deals where we would buy single parcels of land and have them entitled for high density projects. And then we'd sell them off to developers. We did a number of those. And then we also decided to try our hand at building new ground up construction. We did some real high end $1 million luxury townhomes in downtown Salt Lake that were as far as the results, the economic results of those deals, were the worst deals we ever did. It was the only deals that we ever lost money on, and it was painful. And in the middle of doing those, and those took like 2.5 years to build. That was one of the things that was painful about them. Was we had a builder hired, and they just didn't do what they needed to do for those jobs to be successful. So, in the middle of it, we had actually the same contact that brought us those townhome deals came to us and said, I've got this little 12-unit apartment community in South Salt Lake that I've got it under contract, and it's half vacant. The other half is month to month. They're not paying rents. And it needs everything. Like it was 30 years deferred maintenance and needed a TPO membrane roof to mechanicals to windows. I mean, it really needed everything. And so he kind of sat down with us and shared with us how he thought the deal should be done and how it could be financed. We actually used hard money to finance that purchase, and then we brought in a partner for the down payment. So we did that deal with no money out of pocket. And it was our first foray into multifamily, commercial multifamily. We had done duplexes, et cetera. But as far as 5 units and up, it was our first jam. And we did real well on that deal. We needed to recapitalize because of the townhomes. So we ended up selling it. I wish we had kept it because it would be worth probably twice now what it was when we sold it in 2018. I guess 2019 was when we actually sold it. Okay. But the Utah market has just spiked since then in the multifamily space. So that was really our aha moment. And that's actually the aha moment was when we sat down with the deal and underwrote it before we bought it. And we looked at this thing called income on our spreadsheet, which was like, we'd never seen income before in a property.
Right. Cause you've been in the flipping game.
Yeah. And let me tell you, let me make an argument here that I think flipping is a very speculative, more risky venture than buying and working with and value adding a commercial property, because with commercial properties, the valuation process is very straightforward. It's based on the income of the property, versus a single family where the value is based on an appraiser's opinion, one person. and you may or may not get that appraisal that you need when you go to sell a flip.
Yeah.
So there's speculation in there that that you're going to get what you need to get at the end of the day with flipping. And when we saw this thing called income and revenue and cash flow on the spreadsheet, it was like,
wow,
what hole can you poke in this deal? Like, it pays for itself. Like, this is amazing. It was like, and it was really the first time it took us having a deal like shoved in our face to really see the magic of commercial multifamily.
So here's the thing. So you get to this point where you see the magic of the commercial multifamily, right? And I appreciate the way that you're telling the story, because it's not like of this bed of roses. Like, there are real issues that happen along the way. There are things that don't work. There are things that, you're learning, you're constantly learning, right? Sometimes you're paying full price for the learning opportunity. Sometimes you're paying, if you are coached or mentored, maybe you pay at a discount, right?
Yeah.
Trusting that you're enjoying today's conversation. And you know what? If you're tired of getting crushed by taxes and you're looking for greater freedom to be able to choose what you want to do when you want to do it, make sure that you go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. Let's get back to the conversation. So you've gone to this understanding the power or the magic of commercial multifamily, as you stated, but then you've done something like very contrarian. And it goes to the basis and the kind of the whole thesis of this show, which is, Tate, you and I talked about this. I've been living in Europe for over 20 years. And I spent the last decade of my corporate career investing from Europe back in the United States, different types of assets. It's super contrarian because most people do their entire career what you started doing, which is you're there in Utah, you've got a strong network, you had your realtor's license, you did all this kind of stuff, and you invested where you were.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that you're also today looking beyond your backyard. And that's not something that a lot of people would even consider, much less do. So I would love for you to share the insight with me and the Going Long family. Like, what was the impetus for you to be able to feel comfortable and confident enough to say, you know what, we're actually going to go beyond where we live now. We're going to go geographically to different places.
Yeah. So when we did that deal and got into it, like, the excitement level for me hit the ceiling as far as like my enthusiasm for the possibilities that this new space offered. So I dove in head first. I bought a couple of audiobooks that were very, very key. I'll just go ahead and mention one that not too many people know about, called How to Make Big Money in Small Apartments, which is Lance Edwards is the author's name. And that book's a great 30,000 foot view of the whole game of syndication. And so that was my first intro to the concept of syndication. Shortly thereafter, I was listening to podcasts too. All of a sudden I started going to our Utah Real Estate Investor Association meetings and learning strategies. And the coaching program. So I enrolled in a coaching mentorship. It was a coaching mastermind with Corey Peterson, the big kahuna, who's a nationally known author and syndicator and speaker and just a great guy. And that was a program where he's in Phoenix and I'm in Salt Lake. So it's a quick 2-hour flight. And he would spend a one-on-one day with me, where he basically 9 to 5 in his office just laid out his playbook for me and showed me everything and how he does the business, from acquisitions to capital raising to management. And in that coaching mastermind, I was surrounded by 15 other people that were doing the same thing that I was, or trying to do the same thing that I was doing. And I really learned the whole game from him and got the confidence to do it from him, because he was willing to even partner with us and be on our company profile kit, what we call our credibility kit. And so he gave us an awful lot of confidence. And one of the things that was quickly obvious was that we were looking at models where we were cash flowing properties to a degree that we could pay a preferred return to investors, to passive investors. And at that point, the Utah market had already appreciated so much that the pricing was such that we couldn't cash flow to that degree. So we started looking out of state, and as you know, Billy, in this space, so many investors invest in markets that they don't live in, right? There's a lot of Bay Area investors that invest in Texas and Florida and Carolinas. And so you kind of find that out quickly that this isn't necessarily a local game anymore. So when we started considering where we were going to buy, we had about 5 cities on the radar. San Antonio was one, Albuquerque was one. Those two have kind of dropped off. We don't shop there anymore. Columbus was one, and Columbus made a lot of sense because of my familiarity with Ohio and my family that's still there, and friends that went to Ohio State and still live there. And but it made a lot of sense on a metrics level and on an employment basis level and on a growth level as well, and certainly on a pricing level. The other market that we really focused on and honed in on was the Oklahoma City market. We also shop in Tulsa. We haven't bought in Tulsa yet, but they're great sister cities. Same reasons there. Great job diversification, lots and lots of Class C value add inventory, and the price is right. Like, to this day in 2022, we can still buy property in Oklahoma City that is, in the 50 to 65,000, maybe even lower, slightly lower than that range per unit. And if you do for listeners, if you're at all familiar with the 1% rule, to make a $50,000 a unit deal work, you have to get at least $500 a unit. Well, in Oklahoma City, the average rents are in the 6s and 7s for a 1-bedroom, and so it's just mathematically it's a great market for us. So we fast forward in our progression, we did a little 20 unit out here in Utah after that first 12 unit that also did real well. We cut our teeth on a heavy value add there. We were doing like $30,000 room renovations per unit. And then we got into the national scene, and in 2021, so just at the beginning of last year, which is now a year and a half ago, almost really, I guess going on almost 2 years ago, we bought our first properties in Columbus. We bought simultaneously, we bought a 70 unit portfolio, Class C value add, and we bought a 192 unit Class C. It's actually up in Mansfield, Ohio, which is about an hour north of Columbus. And so those were our first 2 large scale purchases. We syndicated both of those deals. So it was our first foray into raising capital in a syndication model. And we have since really laser focused on those 2 markets, Columbus and Oklahoma City. So we spent a lot of time there. We go there physically a lot. We have, at this point, we've developed great property management relationships there. We have 2 different property managers in Columbus, one for our Class C and one for a Class A property that we own. And same with Oklahoma City. We love our property manager there. And they're doing just a bang up job, which as most of you listeners will know, that property management piece, once you own a property, is everything. They are where the rubber meets the road, and they're where your business plan is either executed or not executed by your property manager under your supervision as an asset manager. So that's a part of the game that we've, I think, gotten pretty good at is the asset management. We currently own 7 properties, 3 in Oklahoma City and 4 in Columbus. 595 doors total, roughly $58 million in assets under management. So So like we don't really even look often at properties outside of those two markets. If anything, we'll maybe look in Tulsa, and we'll look in sometimes in Cincinnati, which is it's quite different than Columbus, but there's some positives about Cincinnati as well. Besides the fact that I know it like the back of my hand and everything else. So
that helps a lot.
And besides the fact that the Cincinnati Bengals play there, there's other great things about it too.
There's other cool stuff. Now, and so I guess a couple of different things that I think it's important for the Going Long family to take away from what you just said, right? Is, it wasn't something that you did overnight looking into other locations. It was a matter of having early successes where you were, recognizing that you had not just the education, but you also had the support system to help you to understand what you would need to do to get into the new markets. It was hopefully clear to everyone that you studied the markets, because you'd even mentioned some of the markets that you're no longer, or that you looked at, but you're not in. I think one of them you said was San Antonio. There was another one that you mentioned. I can't remember the name of that one, but ultimately you came down because of the metrics, because of the things that not only you were educated on, but you had the support system around. This was what led you to start to place your bets, right? Your quote unquote bets in markets like OKC, Oklahoma City, as well as Columbus. There's some others that are still on the peripheral, but there was a process to what you did. And basically it started out because you saw an early success, you had the education, and you had the support system. And so it really goes back to one of the main things that I like to share with the Going Long family, which is, personally understand where it is that you want to go in terms of the benefit you're looking for. Go to the location, which is what you did. You went to the locations that gave you the highest probability of getting the outcomes you were looking for. From there, it's into your point, Tate, and I can't emphasize this enough. It's about the team that you're building, right? And one of the key members of the teams, especially when you are in a long distance investing perspective, is the property management team. Do they understand the clientele, the resident, the tenant? One of the things that I hope the Going Long family also took away from what you said is you have in the same city, you have one property manager that is managing your A-class property, and you have another property management team that's managing your C-class property. If you didn't hear that, everyone, it's something that's absolutely key and critical, and just goes to the fact that you understand the client and make sure that the people that are managing that clientele on a day-to-day basis also understand the clientele. So, so this is really awesome, and I'm glad that you helped us understand, what gave you the impetus to go long distance. But there's also another thing that I would like to ask you before we get into the Going Long final three, which is just the concept of really focusing on building community, because I know that that's something that you are really laser focused on. So maybe you could talk to us about how you got that laser focus and what it is that you're doing to actually continue to build community.
That's such a good question that nobody's ever asked me before. I was in college, I was an RA, resident assistant in the dorms, and it was a blast. It was a riot. We had such a good time. I did it for 2 years, and the Department of Residence Life at Ohio University is very, very focused and intentional about creating community, and really hammers this into us as RAs that we're leaders in creating a community which is very different than a neighborhood, right? Like a neighborhood, you may or may not know any of your neighbors at all. You may know your next door neighbors, and that's it. Whereas a community, there's interdependence, right? So there's heavy interaction and interdependence in a community, and an idea, kind of a concept where everybody's functioning together and everybody affects everybody else. So we just do a couple things. We focus heavily on making sure our communities are very safe and clean and aesthetically pleasing. We typically do a fair amount of exterior CapEx, landscaping, painting exteriors, roofs, and basically giving the community an overall sense of like being taken care of, right? Like this is being cared for in a way that you can tell that people care about the well-being of the residents and their happiness. And so we do that. And then at at all of our properties, especially our Oklahoma City properties, we're probably best at this. We do a lot of community building activities. So we'll have, our property manager, they call it a hot diggity dog party, and they have like a hot dog bar where you can just create your own hot dogs, and they do a drawing every month for different things. Paying your rent early or on time, you get entered into a drawing, and a lot of Halloween events, costume parties, a lot of just parties that are designed to and activities that are designed to get people out of their units and into each other's lives. And so I think from a branding / exterior remodeling, capital, doing all of that stuff, from that perspective, and from our activity set perspective, those are really the two places that we try to make a big difference in people's lives. Our company, we're very focused and committed to our residents and to our investors. Those are the two groups of people that we serve. And we feel that if we're making all of our choices with their best, highest and best in mind, that we're going to do real well as a company. So I consider us a service company. We're very much in the service of our residents and our investors.
Fantastic. So having that hyper focus on residents as well as your investors, and being able to do the things that you talked about to be able to build community, which creates something that is very special and very unique. So with that, Tate, listen, I want to keep talking, but the thing is, we got to get to the Going Long Final 3, man. It's time for the Going Long Final 3. And the thing is, you already answered the question, because I never ask anybody unless you tell me you're ready. And you're like, yeah, let's do it, man. You're already ahead of the game. So let's do it. Okay, awesome. So the very first of the Going Long Final 3, but it's our third question, of course, because I asked you two in the beginning. This really has to do with, well, we know that although you're a fellow Ohioan, which is always kind of fun to have two Buckeyes are here, but you've now called Salt Lake City home, and now I'm calling Barcelona home, or Barcelona, as they like to say it here. Barcelona, so we started with you over there. I'd like to bring it back to this side of the pond now, Tate. So help us understand, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
It's I love this question, because I just got my first, believe it or not, my first ever European trip in the spring of this year. And it was amazing. Yeah, growing up as a kid, we had a vacation home up on Lake Michigan, and so we went there every summer. We never traveled internationally. It's just kind of how it went. And then I got into work and career, but I have a strong priority on travel now.
Awesome.
I'm spending a month in Mexico in November working remotely. So, cool. Dude, so one of the beautiful things about living in Salt Lake is we're a Delta hub. And so we have direct flights to Paris and Munich and Amsterdam. And so I flew direct to Amsterdam, spent 4 or 5 days there, and then went to Paris, and then back to Amsterdam, and then to Greece for a little bit, and then back to Amsterdam, and then came back. And let me tell you, Amsterdam just grabbed me, man. There is something magical about that city, and I can't really even put my finger on what it is. It's aesthetically, it's just gorgeous. Yeah. Every other road is water. It's a canal, right? There's canals everywhere throughout the city, and they're beautiful, and there's beautiful boats. And
did you ride one of the boats in the canal?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we went on a boat tour. It was so cold, dude. Amsterdam gets cold, man. But yeah, it was. I don't know. We went to the Van Gogh Museum, or Van Gogh, as they say. And I can't do it, but I'll try.
That's okay. And, you get bonus points for trying, man.
The food was great. Just culturally speaking, I loved every bit of that. And
awesome.
So I can't wait to get back. I would actually live there and work remotely I could easily see doing that.
Hey man, anything and everything is possible nowadays. So
that's right.
No, so awesome. So Amsterdam. So we've got that. Question number 2. Here we go. This really has a lot to do, Tate, with the a lot of the successful people that I've been very fortunate to be able to come across and be able to recognize some patterns and just general things that I think most people know about successful people. I consider you to be someone who's also very successful. You're impacting lives in different states around the globe now because you've got this amazing podcast and you're doing all of these cool things. And a lot of times when I recognize successful people, and hopefully you'll agree with this as well, like one of the things that sets really successful people apart from most people is that whenever they set their mind to doing something, accomplishing a goal, they go out and as they accomplish this goal, they start to take action against that goal. And every single action that they take, they get things right literally the first time, which allows them to go even faster and even better. And you know what, Tate?
What's up, bud?
I just kind of had a little joke there. Tate's like suffering for me. He's like, man, what just happened here? What just happened here? No, of course people don't. They don't get it right the first time. Normally, like really successful people.
Okay, good. I thought we weren't recording or something, dude. No, I was like, what happened?
I just like to have fun. I just like to have fun. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Here's the thing. Yeah. Successful people, normally they don't get things right the first time. They probably make a lot more mistakes than most people, probably like 20 to 50 times more mistakes than most people.
That's right.
But the reality is, Tate, every single time, this is no joke. The first part was kind of a joke just because I like to have fun. But every single time that successful people have or make a relevant mistake or learning opportunity or call it whatever you want to call it, right? The thing that they're looking to happen didn't happen, especially when it's relevant. Every single time, without fail, they stop. They learn from that mistake, and then they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place so that the same thing doesn't happen again.
Right.
So I don't want you to talk about the mistake because I know you've already mentioned things that have happened. I really want you to focus on what is the lesson that you learned from that mistake that you know that the Going Long family needs to hear today to minimize the probability of that same thing happening.
Yeah. What to your point, what you described is the idea of failing forward. And I think that's what that process is when there is a mistake made and it causes suffering. Like you said, you take a minute, you sit back, you go, okay, what happened here? What can we do differently moving forward to make sure this doesn't happen again? And how can we even capitalize on this failure? I mean, look, failure, it isn't always failure at the end of the day. And I think that's one important thing to keep in mind is sometimes it's those failures end up being the best thing that could have happened to you. Awesome. That said, just back to the importance of that property manager and also construction manager. If you're doing a value add, you're going to have construction and you're going to have a GC or a builder come in and manage that for you, or the property manager themselves is going to manage it for you. Getting that piece right, guys, is so key. And so you literally can't do enough due diligence and vetting on those two pieces. We real quick, I know you said don't talk about the mistake, but we made the mistake of hiring a property manager in Oklahoma City that really fell flat and really hurt us on a like business plan timeline level, and also cost us a lot of money. And I won't get into how and why that happened, but we did have a good referral for them. And we also had a little bit of a track record with their firm, and that they have a brokerage as well. And we had bought a property from them. So we knew them and we trusted them at the time. And we had no reason to think that they wouldn't do a great job on our properties. The one thing we did not do is we did not tour any of the properties they were managing. We should have both toured it with them, and we should have also secret shopped those properties. We would have found out, I think, a lot there. So yeah, those two pieces, like vet, due diligence, ask for references, go get your own references, secret shop, read reviews, do all the things that you can do to make sure that you're getting into a great property manager and a great construction manager.
Be diligent in doing your due diligence. So,
and this is
absolutely.
especially important when you're out of state.
Yeah.
Because
Everything
the level of trust you're putting in those entities is huge. It's just huge.
Huge. So I appreciate you sharing that, giving us that insight as well, Tate. And this brings us to question number 3, which is really about helping us to feed our minds with knowledge. And just would love to know, what is the one book that you would recommend to us today?
Can I do 2?
You can over-deliver.
I'll make it quick.
You can over-deliver. Go ahead.
So on a slightly different direction than what we've been talking about, and that the show's topic is on, there's a book called The Untethered Soul that has been massive for me on a personal development level. And it's arguably a spiritual book, I guess. It's not based in any religion, but it's really about healing yourself from any core wounds or anything that you need to work out. And in his words, stealing freedom for your soul. So basically becoming a soul that is free of constraint and free of things like that are just causing you hangups in life, and going out and living a life that you love and a life that feeds you and a life that feeds others. To me, that book is sacred text. It's been life-changing for me. On a business level, the book Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, Herold, has been a huge influence on our company. We wrote our own Vivid Vision, which is a 3-year vision / plan for the next 3 years of our company's life span. And that to me is game-changing work when you sit down and say, okay, let's fast forward 3 years and look back at what we've done, and look at it from that perspective. Like, how many doors do we own? How much in assets under management? And what kind of impact are we making on the world and on the community? What kind of culture do we have as a team? What kind of office do we work? I mean, like, all the details of your company kind of go into your Vivid Vision. It takes the place of your mission statement and your vision statement. And it's almost like those two things on steroids, really. It's like ours is like a 5 or 6 page document that I wrote. And again, just game-changing stuff.
Very cool. Awesome. So Untethered Soul and Vivid Vision. We're going to, for those of you that are listening, you're going to get Vivid Vision as well. But I like the fact that you led with something that has nothing to do with business at all. And I would like for that to go into the Untethered Soul, because I really appreciate you sharing that first, right? Because that is the thing that makes a lot of impact, especially on a personal development perspective. So if you're listening, you get both. If you're going to look at the link, you're going to get Untethered Soul. But you got to me,
that mindset piece is 80-90% of this business.
Yeah. It's definitely huge. It's over the top. And that is the thing that, especially when you're doing things long distance, it is what really will allow you to either move forward or sometimes will keep you in your tracks. So
yeah, absolutely.
Man, I'm thinking about you going from the beginning of these conversations, like these things just go by so fast. And you're talking about like 1999, going from Cincinnati to Utah, Cincinnati, excuse me. So going from Cincinnati to Utah. And as you're out there, you're recognizing, hey, listen, there's a lot of beautiful stuff. You love skiing. You're this amazing photographer. Things are going well. You like it. And then, well, kind of as you're getting your license and becoming a broker, an agent, and you're understanding the things that can happen, you then also recognize that there's somebody talking about owning a triplex. And you're like, hang on a second, how in the world is this possible? And so you get into the world of flipping and you realize that that's something that you like to do. And the economy turns down. And although things had a downturn, it didn't really affect you as it did so many other people. But you realize like, hey, listen, this is something that can happen. And then afterwards you realize that, hey, listen, you had the opportunity to have this 12-unit apartment complex and you saw this thing called income. And the revenue was like, wow, this is different. This is interesting. And so from there, you took the right steps. That you got more education, you got more accountability. You were able to take the early success that you had with that 12-unit apartment unit, 12-unit apartment complex. And you then were able to take it from there to realize like, hey, listen, how can we expand on this? Education, accountability, and recognizing, studying different locations, figuring out which locations made the most sense for you, not just in your own backyard, but places like Oklahoma City, places like Columbus, Ohio, and saying, hey, listen, we're going to double down here. We're going to get the right property managers. We're going to make sure that we have the right team. And sometimes you got to kiss a couple frogs to get to the ultimate prince or princess that you're looking for.
That's right.
And then, this also helped you get to a point where you are recognizing the importance of business, recognize the importance of mindset and self-development and personal development. And I know that so many people are like, yeah, Billy, just ask him the question, man. So here's the thing. Like, I'm building all this up because everybody in the Going Long family wants to find out, Tate, how can we find out more about you, what it is that you're doing and what you're doing at Greenlight Equity Group?
I appreciate that, Billy. So investwithgreenlight.com is a great place to go to you can do a number of things there. You can book an appointment with me on my Calendly link. I love to visit with listeners, no strings attached, no sales, no, just brainstorming your business and sharing with you a little bit about, how we do things and hopefully being of great value to you. So I have a 10 and a 20-minute time slot on my Calendly that you can book there. And then you can also join our investor list there, so you can see about deals and offerings that we have coming out. So that's really the best way to reach me. I want to just double down on one thing that we didn't really retouch on, which is the coaching mentorship program that I did with Corey Peterson was absolutely foundational. It probably put us 5 years ahead of where we otherwise would have been. And so to me, the value of a coach or a mentor is massive. It's just, the right fit, the right personality fit, the right experience fit, everything else will elevate you and help you avoid critical errors that maybe the coach has encountered or seen, and will make a 5-year timeline more like 6 months to a year. So, awesome. So I heavily recommend looking into different coaching options. I happen to have a coaching program myself. It's pretty new, called Multifamily Accelerator. And so you can email me through the website and find out more about that if you'd like.
All right. Fantastic. Well, Tate, thank you very much. And check them out, investwithgreenlight.com. You find out more about what they're doing, their deals, their deal portal, and also be able to talk to Tate more about the coaching program that he's starting up. So listen, Tate, on behalf of the entire Going Long family, just want to say thank you very much for deciding to invest your time with me, with us, and sharing your expertise. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Oh, dude, this was my pleasure. I wish we had another hour. I love talking to you.
Or 5, man, or 5. So, but yeah, time is what it is. So, like I said, really appreciate it. And just if you give me like 15 seconds, we'll wrap things up. Going Long family, listen, Tate just left so much value for you. He talked about the great things that happen. He talked about the realities that can happen. And he's also giving you an opportunity to go check him out at his website. So I would suggest to take this conversation that we've had today, listen to the conversation again, take some notes, and then share today's episode. Share it with friends, share it with family. Talk about the things that Tate went through and how you can replicate some of the things, how you can avoid some of the mistakes that he talked about as well, so that you can go from theory to actual tactical, practical application. And so while you're doing that, I'll be here preparing for the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.